Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really cut through all that noise in the fitness world.
There's so much out there.
Exactly. And today, we're tackling something huge. How do you actually maximize muscle gains? Forget the fads, the conflicting stuff.
Yeah, it gets overwhelming fast.
So what if there was, like, a clearer path? A shortcut based on solid science?
That's what we're aiming for.
That's the mission for this deep dive. We've dug into the work of, 7 of the world's top muscle-building researchers?
That's right. Pulled out the core idea.
And built this kind of ultimate blueprint. The goal is to give you the really important, actionable bits, without the confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's really cool is how these pieces fit together. It's not just random tips.
Right.
We want to look at what works, sure, but also why it works. And crucially, how you can actually use this stuff. Your own training, your nutrition, like right now.
Practical application.
Exactly. These are insights from the leading folks based on solid research.
Yeah.
I had to bring some clarity.
Clarity is good. Okay, first big piece. Exercise selection. There's always this talk about must-do exercises, right? Like, if you skip bench press, you're doomed. An old chestnut.
But maybe we need to think about that differently.
Definitely. Dr. Mike Israetel, PhD in sports physiology, he has some really specific thoughts here.
Okay.
On the number of exercises per muscle group each week. He suggests keeping it pretty tight. 2 to 4.
2 to 4, that sounds low.
It does, maybe counterintuitive. But the idea is to conserve variation. You focus on the exercises that give you the best stimulus for the least fatigue. The best stimulus to fatigue ratio moves.
Okay, so don't burn through your best options too fast.
Precisely. Stick with the winners for longer. Quality over just, throwing everything at it.
Gotcha. Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So what are some of those high-value exercises Dr. Mike likes?
We're different muscles.
Yeah, he lays out a pretty solid list. For chest, you're looking at flat barbell or dumbbell pressing, some incline work, and a fly movement. Simple, effective.
Makes sense. And back.
For back, pull-ups, rows, deadlifts. But, and this is key, with strict form. No ego lifting.
Right.
He also mentioned something called flexion rows, where you let your back round a bit at the bottom, then really arch and blow your chest through at the top. Gives you that extra juicy thickness, as he puts it.
Extra juicy thickness. Love it. Okay, arms, biceps, triceps.
For biceps, he emphasizes curls from a stretched position. Think inclined dumbbell curls or cable bias curls. Really hit that lengthened range.
Okay, stretch is key.
For triceps, you want overhead movements for the long head stretch, some isolation like push downs, and your compound pressing definitely contributes too.
Got it. What about shoulders? They seem complex.
Dr. Mike actually simplifies it. He figures your front delts get hit with chest pressing, rear delts with back work. So the main focus, side delts.
The lateral raises.
Exactly. Dumbbell laterals, upright rows, cable laterals, that's where you get the width.
Efficiency again. Don't double dip unnecessarily. Makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. All right, the big ones, legs.
Oh yeah, it definitely covers legs. Calves first. Straight leg raises more often than bent leg. Gets the bigger gastroc muscle better. And the real key, a big, slow, 2 to 4 second stretch at the bottom. That's where the growth happens.
Wow, okay. That long stretch. Noted. Quads.
For quads. High bar squats, Smith machine squats, leg presses, hack squats. Good old leg extensions too, done properly.
Hamstrings. Always tricky.
Hip hinges are big. Stiff leg deadlifts, barbell or dumbbell. And then curls a mix of lying and seated. He notes seated often gives a better stretch, so maybe more effective for some.
Seated leg curls. Interesting. Glutes.
Glutes. Lunges are core.
Okay.
Especially if you elevate the front foot, really focus the weight there. Hip thrusts, obviously, and very deep sumo squats.
That's a fantastic list. Really specific, actionable stuff. Okay, so we have these great exercises, but how often do you switch them up? People love variety, right? Weekly changes.
Yeah, that's a common thought, but Dr. Mike actually warns against changing too often. Like weekly changes might actually cut your growth short.
Really? Why is that?
Because you don't give yourself time to really master the movement and progress on it. The research doesn't show a benefit to constant swapping if you're still making progress. Adding weight, adding reps, and feeling good, no joint pain.
So stick with what's working.
Stick with it as long as it's working. Only change if it starts causing pain or you just really hate it and it kills your motivation, then swap it for another good one from that list.
Consistency beats novelty. Powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know what to do. Next big question. How much? How many sets? How often do we hit the gym? This is where things get debated, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time. And this is where Dr. Brad Schoenfeld's work is invaluable. He runs a lab focused purely on muscle growth.
The hypertrophy expert.
Pretty much. His research suggests the sweet spot for sets per muscle group per week is generally somewhere between 10 and 20.
10 to 20 sets, that's a range.
It is. And he stresses it's highly variable. What works for you might not work for the next person. Individual response is huge.
So no magic number. But can you use that range strategically? Like hammer a weak point with more volume.
Absolutely. Brad talks about specialization cycles, say your chest lags. You might push it towards that 20-set mark for a while. Meanwhile, maybe your back grows easily, so you give it just, say, 5 maintenance sets.
It's all it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, super important point for beginners, this volume stuff. Not the main focus initially. First few months. Learn the movements. Get the form down. Don't worry about chasing 20 sets.
Form first, volume later. Crucial distinction. Okay, once volume is sorted, what about frequency? Hitting muscles multiple times a week. Always better.
Not necessarily always better, especially with lower volumes. If you're doing like 8 or 10 sets per muscle per week, hitting it once might be totally fine. The data isn't super clear that more is always better there.
Okay.
But when you get into higher volumes, say 16 sets or more, then yeah, there seemed to be a modest benefit to splitting it up.
How so?
Like instead of smashing 16 sets of chest on Monday, maybe do 8 on Monday and 8 on Thursday. Better recovery, maybe better quality sets overall.
That makes intuitive sense. So what kind of split facilitates that?
An upper-lower split is a great starting point. Super versatile. You can do upper-lower twice a week. Need more volume. Maybe add a third full-body day. It's about finding a structure that lets you apply these principles consistently.
Got it. Exercise selection, volume, frequency, solid foundation. Now, how we do those sets, how heavy, and how do we keep making progress? Progressive overload.
Right. And Daniel Plein, who actually studied under Schoenfeld, has great insights here. On rep ranges, research shows you can grow muscle with a wide range.
Okay.
But practically, for most people, most exercises,
Yeah.
that 5 to 15 rep range seems to be the sweet spot. Moderate load.
Why that range specifically?
Well, go too heavy, like under 5 reps, you might need a ton of sets for enough growth stimulus, and it can be harder on the joints. Go too light, like 20-plus reps, it gets really uncomfortable and hard to judge how close you are to failure, especially on big lifts.
Makes sense. 5 to 15 is practical, but the key is progressing, right? Adding weight or adding reps. Does one work better?
Daniel actually led a study on this exact question. The finding doesn't really matter. Increasing reps work just as well for hypertrophy as increasing the load.
Seriously, that's huge. Means you have options.
Exactly. Total flexibility in how you progress.
So how do you recommend applying that? Is there a system?
He suggests the 8 to 12 rep range for many exercises and using double progression.
Double progression? How's that work?
Simple. Pick a weight you can do for, say, 8 reps. Your first goal is to increase reps. Work towards getting 9, then 10, 11, eventually 12 reps with that same weight using good form.
Okay, reps first.
Then, only when you nail those 12 reps comfortably, you add a little weight, like 5 pounds, maybe less, and start back down, aiming for 8 reps with the new heavier weight. And repeat the cycle.
Ah, I see. Reps up, then weight up. Keeps you constantly pushing. Brilliant.
It's a very effective, sustainable way to ensure progressive overload.
Okay, that's crystal clear. Now, the intensity debate. How hard do we need to push all the way to failure or leave some reps in the tank? This one gets heated.
It really does. And Josh from Data Driven Strength, him and his colleague Zach did a huge analysis on this. What they found is, yeah, training closer to failure does give you more growth per set. About 5% more growth for every rep closer you get.
Okay, so failure wins for growth per set.
But it also generates way more fatigue. Significantly more.
Ah, the trade-off. More growth stimulus, but harder recovery.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So you have to train hard, no doubt. The question is how? Do you do more sets, leaving a few reps in reserve, or fewer sets, taking them all the way to failure? It comes down to what you can personally recover from.
Individual recovery capacity again. What's the practical advice, especially for beginners?
For beginners, first few weeks. Technique, technique, technique.
Yeah.
Get comfortable, safe.
Right.
After that, for most sets, aim for maybe 2-3 reps in reserve, or RIR, meaning you stop when you feel you could have done 2 or 3 more good reps.
Okay, not failure on most sets.
But then, maybe take the last set of an exercise, right at failure. Get that maximum stimulus, but manage overall fatigue. With a caveat for really taxing lifts like squats, maybe don't go to absolute muscular failure there for safety, but still push hard.
Balanced approach. Intensity with recovery in mind. I heard Josh is doing more research now, trying to piece all this together. Volume versus failure.
Yes, really exciting stuff. They're comparing higher volume, training of 3 reps in reserve versus lower volume, going to failure on everything, trying to see how range of motion, frequency, volume, intensity, how it all interacts. It's complex.
Can't wait to see those results. It feels like the science is constantly refining things. Okay, so we've covered the foundations. Now for something a bit newer, maybe even a growth hack, something showing consistently faster gains.
Yeah, this is fascinating stuff from Dr. Milo Wolf. He's deep into this specific area. The technique is called lengthened partials.
Lengthened partials, what's that?
It means training only in the bottom, stretched part of the range of motion, like maybe the bottom half of a bicep curl or the deepest part of a lateral raise.
Just the stretch part, not the full rep.
Exactly. And the evidence is pretty compelling.
Mm.
5 recent studies looked at it. 4 found more muscle growth with lengthened partials compared to full range of motion. 1 found no difference.
4 out of 5 showed better growth.
Wow.
How do you actually use that? Do you just add partials at the end of a set?
That's one way to do your full reps, then burn out with partials. But Milo suggests the potentially best way might be to actually replace full range sets with sets of just lengthened partials. So doing maybe half reps in that stretch position.
Interesting. Are there exercises where this works best or ones to avoid?
Yeah, probably avoid it on things where failure could be risky, like heavy squats or bench. But it seems good for lateral raises, bicep curls, tricep pushdowns, lots of back exercises, chest flies. Things where failing safely in that partial range isn't a big issue.
How often would you use them? Is it an all-the-time thing?
The research is still evolving on programming. Milo himself uses them almost exclusively now. If maximizing growth is your absolute top priority, maybe over pure strength, he suggests trying them for at least half your training volume.
Even for beginners?
Well, learning the full range first is probably smart, just for context.
Yeah.
But yeah, studies show a big effect even in untrained folks. So after a few weeks of getting the basics down, they could definitely start incorporating them.
Lengthened partials. Definitely something to explore. Okay, we have covered a ton on training. It's an amazing blueprint. But training is only half the equation, right? Nutrition fuels the gains.
Absolutely crucial. Can't out-train a bad diet, as they say.
So what does this mean for eating? Let's start with calories. Surplus always needed.
This is where Dr. Eric Helms provides some nuance. We always hear, eat big to get big, but it's not universally true. If you're a beginner with higher body fat, you might actually grow back at maintenance calories or even a small deficit.
Really? Using existing fat stores for fuel?
Exactly. Your body can tap into that energy. But for leaner folks, or those past the beginner stage, a surplus is generally needed.
How big should that surplus be? People talk about massive bulks.
For a true lean beginner, a big surplus, maybe adding a 2,000-calorie gainer, can work surprisingly well initially. You can gain almost pure lean mass, maybe a pound a week.
Wow.
But, and this is key for more experienced lifters, those huge surpluses mostly just lead to fat gain after that initial phase. Muscle growth slows down.
Diminishing returns. So how do you scale it smartly based on experience?
Eric gives great guidelines. Novice. Aim to gain about 2% of body weight per month. That's usually a 300-500 calorie surplus. Intermediate. Target 1% body weight gain per month, maybe a 200-300 calorie surplus.
Yeah.
Advanced, even less, 0.5% to 1% per month. Maybe just a 100-200 calorie surplus.
That's so practical. Slow, steady, lean gains based on potential.
Love it. Okay, calories sorted. What about the building blocks, protein? The absolute cornerstone. Alan Aragon, another top nutrition researcher, nails this down. The critical target. 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Or 0.7 to 1.0 grams per pound.
That's the magic range.
If you hit that range by the end of the day, you've basically done 90-95% of what nutrition can do for muscle growth. That's the cake, as Alan calls it, the big piece.
The cake. I like that analogy. So what's the icing?
The icing is how you distribute it. Spreading that total protein fairly evenly across at least 3 meals or doses throughout the day seems to optimize things further. Studies show better gains with even distribution versus like one massive protein meal.
3 or more even doses. Got it. Best sources.
Mix it up. Flesh foods, beef, fish, chicken, dairy, Greek yogurt, milk, whey is obviously popular and effective. And if you're plant-based, legume and bean-based proteins are great. Variety is good.
Makes sense. Now, speaking of sources, Alan mentioned something specific, kind of surprising, about eggs.
Yes. This was a really cool insight. He talked about a study comparing guys eating 3 whole eggs after training versus guys eating the equivalent protein amount from just egg whites, like 6 whites.
Okay, whole eggs versus whites. What happened?
The whole egg group didn't just see better body composition changes. They also had a, quote, freaking huge increase in testosterone levels. like 239 nanograms per deciliter higher.
Whoa. Just from whole eggs. Why?
Allen attributes it to the dietary cholesterol in the yolks. Cholesterol is a precursor molecule for testosterone production.
Cholesterol helps make testosterone. Interesting. Any downsides? Cholesterol concerns.
He did note the study didn't report baseline testosterone, which is a limitation, but generally for most healthy people, 3 whole eggs a day isn't a major concern for blood lipids. It's just a simple, potentially beneficial thing from a whole food.
That's a fantastic practical nugget right there. Wow. Okay, we've really built something here. A full blueprint grounded in science from these top experts. Exercise selection, volume, frequency, intensity, those new lengthened partials, and nailing the nutrition, calories, and protein, even the eggs.
It covers a lot of ground.
The whole goal was to give you trustworthy, actionable info you can use right away. Cut through the noise.
Hopefully it provides that clarity we talked about.
Definitely. And maybe to wrap up, a final thought to chew on, building on that ongoing research like Josh's work.
Yeah, exactly. We've looked at all these variables, volume, failure, lengthened partials. The big puzzle now is how they truly fit together for the optimal program. Is it going to be higher volume, staying further from failure, or lower volume, pushing right to the edge more often, maybe incorporating those partials? How do we best integrate all of it?
The ultimate optimization question.
It is. And the answer might still be evolving. So we encourage you listening. Keep exploring. Apply what makes sense from this. See what works for your body. Keep digging deep into your own muscle growth journey.